Welcome to Sakshi TV special immigration talk show with lawyer Dr. Srinivas Kaveti. If you have any consultation or any queries, you can definitely log on to his firm, which is www.kavetilawfirm.com site. They have a wealth of free information and online tools in the hands of immigrant communities, so you can definitely check their law firm out. Please note that Sakshi TV now has many shows every week. We have on Mondays with Somi Reddy, on Tuesdays with Srinivas Kaveti, on Wednesdays with Prashanti Reddy, on Thursdays with lawyer Parvataneni, and on Fridays with Banu Nindra. So please tune in to ask your questions. And if you are an immigration attorney and would like to join our special shows, please email us at usa@sakshi.com or call us at 866-725-7441. So I think without any further delay, let us welcome the new sensation, who is none other than Dr. Srinivas Kaveti. Kaveti Garu, I have to tell you, you're all over the internet, and I've been basically seeing all your videos all over. You open in YouTube, I see you. So congratulations on that. I think it, I must give you a lot of credit for the amount of information, for the amount of proper guidance that you especially are giving to a lot of immigrants out there, especially Indian students. So congratulations on that, Kaveti Garu.
Thank you. Thank you, Shivani. Thanks for having me in Sakshi.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kaveti Garu, for tuning in and taking out your time. So, Kaveti Garu, today we thought this is more like a talk show today, because I kind of want to know what happened from the previous show that we actually had. It was a special show where we kind of sat down and spoke a lot about this issues that are happening. First of all, there was a trafficking scene where 4 Telugu, people were kind of illegally trafficking women out there, and not just women, people with software backgrounds, and they were basically forced to stay in a house and work in like a software company. So this has been happening, and since then, a lot of people, a lot of Indians have come forward and told their experiences with these. So can you tell, as a lawyer, as an international lawyer, what have you noticed in these kind of situations?
See, first of all, Shivani, one must understand there is a human trafficking and there is a labor trafficking. What is exactly human trafficking and labor trafficking? When you're bringing human beings into another country by circumventing the laws, by immigration laws, then what is a labor trafficking? The labor trafficking is closely related to slavery. See, because slavery has been abolished in America and in all over the world. So before, if you see the history, because Africans were brought to America to work in the fields, and they were a slavery, and that's been abolished in America. See, what they say that because you don't want to work as a slave, that means not getting paid. That means not, living conditions or conditions of work, welfare of the, employee, things like that. So when you are circumventing that, that means when you're going round about that. Let's take this example now. See, there are two sides of this coin, Shivani. One is this, let's talk about the employees and let's talk about the employers. See, if you see the International Labour Organization and United Nations, most of the labor laws are designed to protect the employees in the world. That is human rights. After industrialization and after French Revolution and industrialization after Second World War, the whole of the Western world have going from agrarian economy to the industrialized economies. So industrialization is the key. So if you say industry, that means workers, workmen, and laborers. So because the enterprise entrepreneurs, and if you see the world, there's only 26% of people in the world are entrepreneurs, and 74% of people are employees in the world. That is the statistics in the world by United Nations. That means all over the world, there are more employees than more employers. So because the employees are more in number in the world, so they have to be protected. So the International Labour Organization comes up and says, hey, there are certain guidelines, there are certain rules, certain rights, obligations on the employee.
Yes.
So what is the first thing? See, let's say if in this case, a lot of students are coming to America, Indian students and from all over the world, 190 countries. When the students are coming to America, do they have a right? The answer is yes. When while pursuing their masters, while they're pursuing their undergrad or even associate diplomas or certificate courses, they have a right to work in the country. And if they have a right to work in the country, what sort of rights they have? Number one. Number two, what are the obligations for an employer? So, what employer has to provide? The first and foremost thing is the prevailing wage. Let us say if an employer is hiring an American guy or a local green card holder or a green or a citizen, they are obligated to pay a prevailing wage. And in America, there are 50 states have 50 prevailing wages because if you go to California, there's one wage rate. If you're in New York City, there's another wage rate. If you go to Jersey City, there's another wage rate. So the law says, Department of Labor law says that you're obligated to pay certain wage. So now the employers are obligated to provide you a prevailing wage as per the H-1B regulations. And Department of Labor and Department of State says you have to provide certain salary. That's number one. Number two, working conditions. What are the working conditions? Let's say if you're working in a factory, if you're a woman or if you're having children, and minimum lights, minimum bathrooms, minimum crutches if they have children, and the woman has to be given certain privileges. And if you're working in the night, certain privileges for the employees. So if you're not doing these things, there is an obligation on the employer. If you don't do those things, then there's an actionable. Employees have certain rights. So what is labor trafficking? Labor trafficking is if an employer hires certain employees, if he's not paying and if he's using them as slaves by saying that, okay, I'll sponsor you and I will not pay you properly. And if you report to the government, I will cancel your visa and I will deport you. This is one pattern of labor trafficking. And two, you're not providing them minimum wages or not providing minimum facilities. In this case, with these IT companies, there are 82% of American IT companies are owned by Desi guys. So most of them, what they do, they take rental guest houses for the company. They keep boys and girls or H-1B employees or H-1B women or men. The law says in America that if it is a two-bedroom apartment, you can only have 4 people. That too, you have to be related family. You can't have 15 people, 20 people. So what has been happening in America, these all IT consulting companies, they've been taking the rental apartments or private houses. They're accommodating 20, 30 people. These are all, they're all sleeping on the floor. There's no minimum facility of sleeping. There's only 2 bathrooms and there's no separate bathroom for the women and men. Everybody's using the same bathroom. There's only one kitchen and they're all eating food and they're sleeping on the floor. So, and when you do things like that by the employers, because you're breaching the city law, you're also breaching the federal law, immigration law, you're also breaching the Department of Labor regulation.
Yes.
So when you do things like that, this amounts to trafficking of labor. And
Yes.
third thing these guys are doing, the employers, because these employees are not competent, they don't have enough experience, they are fabricating their resumes. They're committing fraud in this country by saying that you're on a student visa. The employers are saying that you're having a green card. So they're fabricating green cards in India, in their
Yes.
facilities. So these all things comes under the labor trafficking because the
Yes.
employer is committing fraud in recruitment. And you're misrepresenting the vendors, you're misrepresenting the clients, you're misrepresenting the American industry. Why? For a commercial benefit. So material
Yes.
misrepresentation, committing fraud, these all constitute. And even in recruitment process also, you're making a resume, the guy doesn't have 1 year experience, you're saying 7 years of experience, and you're not doing an interview. You have some proxy back home who's doing an interview, and they're doing all these fraudulent practices. And you're not on an H-1B, you're on a student visa. They're all making fake H-1B approvals and floating them saying that he's on an H-1 or she's on an H-1B. These are all
Yes.
recruitment practices. These are called fraudulent recruitment practices. This constitute labor trafficking.
Yes. And also, Kaveti Garu, you've just mentioned that there's a lot of percentage around the world who are actively, an employees for an employer. So when we talk about labor trafficking, in what employer section, or is this kind of labor trafficking more prevalent, or what is happening a lot? Because the one thing people are noticing, it's more in the software or the IT industry. So you as a lawyer, have you noticed that, okay, this segment of people are, more prone to labor trafficking than others comparatively?
Yes, if you see in the past in America, domestic workers, people who are working at home, babysitting job, nurse babysitting, and there were cases in America as well. If you see a few years ago, there was an Indian diplomat who brought some worker from India, and she was treating her like a slave, and there was labor trafficking. In the past, if you see in America, the domestic workers were brought from third world countries. They were brought from Africa. They were brought from Caribbean islands, and they were not given certain privileges. There were a lot of Chinese workers. There was a big movement of Chinese workers in America because a lot of China markets are there in America, and they were kept at in their homes, and they were exploited. Chinese workers. That was big in the past, but because there was a lot of movement in Chinese workers, and the American government started auditing, and they started going and doing the search. Chinese workers were all, the employees were all being arrested. And the second is, if you see people from Caribbean islands. And third, you could see many people from even Philippines. A lot of Filipino workers are being exploited. I mean, in terms of sex trade and other things. So now it was only blue collar workers in the past. Now this has come to the software professionals in the country, in US.
Yes. Yes,
And
I
mostly they're subjected by students and the H-1B employees. And what is happening is they're threatening them, saying that if you report to the government, we will terminate your H-1B. And the second threat, they will say, we will not give you a green card. You will not get a green card. We will deport you. So they're doing all unlawful measures by the employers. I don't want to particularly blame only employers, but I would say employees are also partially equally participating in such schemes, because it takes two hands to clap. It's not just one hand. It is not that I can't just blame only employers, but employers have a higher onus and obligation to follow the immigration law and the Department of Labor law, Constitution, tax laws. You being an US employer, you have an obligation towards the US government. But these employees who are coming from overseas, either students or H-1B workers, they're non-immigrant workers. So they don't have that obligation. I mean, they do have an obligation, but not knowing the law, because they're so desperate, they just want to get a job. They just want to get an H-1B. They just want to get a green card. So they would, they are conniving with the employers. So I don't want to just blame employers per se, quote unquote, but I would also make employees partially responsible. But again, when we hear this, oh, we come to a foreign country, we don't know the law of this land. Ignorance of law is not an excuse. When you live in a country like America, you need to know the law of the land. And that is not an excuse.
definitely, Kaveti Garu. So, Kaveti Garu, I wanted to understand. Of course, this labor trafficking is not something new, and it has been happening since decades. And I think since past 5 years, it has reached and it crosses all the graphs available in the world. So, Kaveti Garu, can you please tell us, you as an international lawyer, and also you specifically from the US law, who you're basically a PhD master's in that. So I wanted to know, what do you think the US government or the USCIS is doing to prevent these kind of things that to happen in the future? Of course, this specific case came into limelight because someone has reported it. So what is going to happen to the all unreported cases that are happening? Is US government going to take something legal, more action, maybe create a separate department for this? What are your views on this?
See, because US is a large country, you have 50 states, and one must understand how this system works. There are three tiers of government in this country. The first tier is a city, municipality. If you see New York, it's called New York Police, NYPD. If you see California, it's city police. And the second is called state police. If you see the highways, there are state troopers. There's a police department. And third is called immigration police, which is a federal police. Because these violation of laws, civil rights violation, and human right violation, immigration violation, these are all federal laws. So the federal enforcement agencies get into action. And if you see ABI, if you see custom enforcement, if you see border security, these are all federal guys. I mean, 50 states, it's not possible for the federal guys to enforce the laws. What happens is they have to take the cooperation of the state police and the city police. And one must understand there are certain states, for example, if you see California, if you see New York, these are, they don't want to cooperate with the federal government. And the New York City mayor said, if you're an unlawful guy, or if you're an out of status or an undocumented alien, come and work in our city. Or even California, they said, come and work in our city, but don't break the law. And the mayor clearly said, we will not cooperate with the federal government, which is the federal law enforcement agencies. So because there are three sovereigns in this country, enforcement of federal laws will become difficulty. And enforcing in 50 states with this federal law enforcement guys becomes difficulty because they have to take the cooperation with the state agencies. And the state agencies, states government said, no, we're not going to associate or assist with you. So that's another problem, because which is a political problem, because there are certain states are democratic states, there are certain states are Republican states. There's so much. We don't want to go into that one. That's number one. Number two, and when the immigration gets to know this, definitely they will do the enforcement, and the employees are arrested. The companies get blacklisted. If there are any H1s or any visas on their companies, they get revoked. Unfortunately, if there are victims are there, they will take the cooperation of those victims to prosecute these employers who have violated the law. And what they would do, if they are victims of a crime, then the federal government will give them protection under the law in terms of police protection, or in terms of even immigration protection of giving them work permits. And if they cooperate, they will also give them a green card, which is called T visa. Sometimes they also get T visas, victim of crimes, and they also get green cards. So that's the benefit these victims would get. And our firm also have been getting a lot of calls because a lot of employees, their H1s are getting revoked because the employers, without the knowledge of employees, they went and filed multiple applications. That is unlawful. So unfortunately, these H1B guys who are working with their families, their visas have been revoked. What is the meaning of revocation? Visa cancellation, saying that immigration is saying, hey, your employer has filed 2 to 3 applications, we are revoking your visa. These are victims of crimes, and they have not told their employees to file 2 to 3 applications, and their visas are getting revoked, their families' visas are getting revoked, children visas are getting revoked, and they're forced to go back to their countries. So such people, if they're filing any complaints as against the employers, that is also, they will get a T visa. That is also called labor trafficking. That conduct is called, conduct of employer is called labor trafficking. So our firm has been assisting some clients.
Yes.
So there are different conduct. I mean, when you complain to the different law enforcement agencies like civil rights, Department of Labor, Department of Immigration, Attorney General's office, there are 10 agencies you can complain. And, they will all take cognizance and they get punished. But these guys who are filing complaints have to be cooperative, and you can't file frivolous complaints just to take this advantage. Because in this country, if you file a frivolous complaint, if it is a malicious prosecution, and the complainant could end up in jail, because you can't move a criminal machinery or the law enforcement guys into motion, because it is costing the taxpayer of this country. So it's a very serious thing. So you have to, my suggestion is, if it is an employer or an employee, they should get in touch with some competent attorneys, those who practice criminal law, those who practice immigration law, those who practice labor laws, and see that whether they have a meritorious claim. If they have a meritorious claim, if they have defenses, if they think they can prove the case beyond reasonable doubt or by preponderance of evidence or by clear or convincing evidence, they will get a claim approved by the government, and then they can get some benefits in the country. And the family can also get the benefits, like they will also get green cards, they will also get work permits, and their removal will be stopped in the country.
Yes. So Kaveti Garu, I wanted to also kind of understand that, a lot of these people who get prone to these kind of labor trafficking are majorly, at least 70% of them are undocumented. So maybe that might be one of the reasons why they don't come forward to just tell the world that, okay, they are victims of the, labor trafficking that is happening. So what kind of protection are they going to get? Let's say somebody's undocumented, they want to come. What kind of protection, what kind of legal rights do these people have?
Wonderful question, Shivani. The law says, Constitution of America says the law protects even undocumented aliens. I mean, you see the cases, a lot of students are also sometimes they're not maintaining their student status. Sometimes the H-1B guys are there. They're not on the payroll. Sometimes they're also, their status is shaky. And they're also prey for such conduct of employees. The law says they can also report. They have the Constitution of America protects even undocumented aliens, because under the civil rights movement, even undocumented aliens also have rights under this in this country, under the Department of State law, under the Department of Federal law, and under the immigration and under the civil rights movements and under the Constitution of America. They're protected. Their rights are protected. The government does take cognizance of such complaints, and the wrongdoers get punished.
Yes, of course. And finally, Kaveti Garu, what kind of protection and what kind of help can Kaveti law firm give to people? Or if, let's say, somebody wants to come talk it out in front of you, what kind of help can your firm give?
Well, Shivani, to be honest with you, I mean, anybody who's coming to our firm, they call us and we schedule a time, and we try to give them information. And we're not trying to solicit through this, your show that please come to us. But our offices are there Monday to Friday. We are willing to help some. We also take up some pro bono work, people who really deserve. And our firm is also advising some employers to comply the law and not to get in trouble. And we're also, our firm is also advising some employees. And, definitely we help. And we're also getting calls from all over the world. And I'm also personally doing a lot of TV, other shows, just to get the information across. And the other thing is recently, a lot of students are having problems in terms of not able to pay their fees. I just came up with one show saying that they can also get a work permit under the financial hardship. I think next show we should concentrate on while students are going to school, if they are not able to pay the school fees, can they get a work permit? Under the financial hardship category, they can get a work permit. We can help them. So I think next show we should do that. And definitely they should get in touch with competent immigration attorneys in their different jurisdiction. And whatever I'm doing, all these shows are only for information and educational purposes, not to solicit any business. And there's no attorney-client relationship. And thanks for having us, Shivani. And I think next time we should do something for students who are facing financial hardship in America, so that they can apply for a work authorization with USCIS, and they can get a full-time work permit and work in the United States. I think that's what the next topic should be for us.
Yes. Sure, Kaveti Garu, and I think with that we'll end today's session. But thank you so much, Andy, for tuning in and giving such valuable information. Thank you for the viewers for tuning in. You're watching Sakshi TV with me, Shivani Raj.